Hey YouTube, Meef here. Welcome to episode 40 of my FTB Continuum quick tips and tricks. I got a few things that I wanted to go over real quick. Probably make this a shorter episode. I kind of wanted to go over some of the setup stuff for this industrial grinder and then a couple other things. The way I've got this set up out of the basement, so I've got an EFAB, a tier 3 down there, and it's pumping all this stuff up here. You could see this setup is kind of ugly, but it works relatively well. Front gold chest here is actually taking input on all of this stuff. Once it gets into the machine, it actually does its output. So we've got the top set for the two lower, if I recall correctly. Yep, that all goes top. This one actually does go to the right, but all this stuff is pumped out. So I've got these servos here. These are actually doing the sort, so if it goes up top, it's going straight back into the ME network. If it's an ore or a dust, it should be a dust. It'll go back in here, go underneath, and it goes straight into the electric furnace. What I did is I've actually got a few overclock upgrades in here. This makes it go pretty fast. If you put another one in here, it kind of struggles with keeping up with water, and it just sucks up shit tons of RF. So if you're kind of struggling with that, keep that in mind. 3 makes this run pretty well. It just does its thing. This thing I've got fully upgraded, whole bunch of overclocker upgrades, so it burns through and just does its thing. Really, I've got some acceleration cards stuffed in the bottom of this, and it just goes back into the network. So, but that's really it for this. It runs pretty fast. It's been able to keep up. I don't see the need for another one at the moment. And as you can see, it's just kind of been doing its job. 22K. I mean, that's more than enough for what I'm doing. So, other thing I wanted to take a look at. I know I messed around with some of the Flux Network stuff in previous episodes. This time through, I did it a little bit different. I've only got... Son of a bitch. I'm not... whatever, you want to stand up, you're fine. I've only got one Flux plug in here. And the reason I did that is just to get the wireless charging. So, this is just sitting on the top. That's doing its business, and that is, yep, it's just a flux plug, so that's just bringing stuff into the Flux network. So once this is all set up, you've got to actually enable this or disable it. It should start as disabled. Enable it, it'll charge everything in your inventory. We kind of went over this, but I've got it set to do baubles and then armor and then whatever's in the inventory. Reason for that being is I've got this flux capacitor in a bauble slot, and that's set to just recharge whatever's there. So keep that in mind. That's there for you. I know I covered it before, wireless charging. Otherwise I just dealt without it. It's not a big deal. It worked really well. So you can kind of see here, kind of had this set up the same. RF input 105 million. You can see the power cells upstairs. That needs to be upgraded a little bit again, but I kind of wanted to show this. As you can see here, I have invested some serious materials in this windmill stuff, and this works pretty well. I mean, it's not a ton of RF input into the power cells, but it does its job. It's enough to run that tier 2 wide open. As far as I know, I generated enough material to make this work. You can see my reactor here is a little bit different. This is just one giant fuel rod in here because I was making cyanide to get that Flux network stuff set up, but this is pretty much empty. As you can see here, the outside changed a little bit. Some of the farming stuff, tons of hemp, and there's a whole bunch of corn there. That just does its thing. So let's go take a look at... I wanted to go over this tier 3 stuff really quick, just because it's a little bit on the expensive side. You can see I moved the smeltery out of the way. I haven't used this in a while. It just sits there. Does nothing at the moment. So tier 3, this stuff is a little bit expensive to make. Let's take a look here. The controller is not bad. This is ore miner. So chrome, tungsteel. Biggest pain in the ass here is probably the vacuum freezer is not hard to get. It's just hot tungsteel. This takes a little while, but not too bad. Tungsten's not all that difficult to get. As you can see, should be able to find this stuff. It's not as rare as you think, it just says it is. so don't worry about it. The big cost here is going to be the structure frames. Obsidian, again, not hard to get. You can actually use UU matter to get this stuff. You don't really even have to mine it. I can show you that setup in just a bit here. The biggest pain in the ass is going to be this Empower Palus crystal block. And this is just going to be blocks of lapis that we've been using, and then it's this prismarine stuff. So if you haven't found guardians and been spawning those, you should be doing that, because you're going to need it. So that's about it for that. And then these null modifiers. I haven't run any modifiers in here. I just left them all null and then just let them go. And that's been working out pretty well for me. No huge issues there. So I kind of wanted to show the UU matter setup I have here. I actually made an igneous extruder. Excuse me. And I stuck this bad boy on top of the recycler. So all this stuff has been dumping down. I've been filling up this cache here too. Right now this is off just because I've set it for that. But this is actually, you get a hardened upgrade. And let's go take a look quick. I think it's back here. I don't know if it's for the first... It is. The very first machine frame you make, you get one hardened upgrade kit. I use this on this thing, and the reason for that being is I used an augment. So this auxiliary reception coil, sorry I can't talk today and I got the hiccups. So with this hooked in here, you could make stupid amounts of cobblestone in a relatively quick amount of time. This should be set for auto input. That all looks good. But this has just been blowing this stuff in here, making scrap, doing its business. And then push that back out into there. So the recycles, this stuff, I mean, it runs relatively quickly. I've got a mechanical crafter sitting on top of here in order to make scrap boxes. So once all 9 are here, it dumps it out and it pushes it back into the matter fabricator. Once this, I mean, this is just pretty much a buffer is all this is, and it's likely never ever going to fill up. That's just an import bus on the bottom of there. But if you take a look at the UU matter there, 5052. I mean, I've been using the shit out of it too to make stuff like diamonds and redstone because I'm a lazy bastard. But I haven't run out yet. I could be using a ton of this, but really I don't see it to be an issue, especially with this recycler just doing its business. So when I'm not running that ore miner at max, it's no big deal. So just kind of let that stuff run. It does its business, and that's it. So that's kind of it for this episode. I think the one thing I did kind of want to talk a little bit about quick, since we're on the episode where we're getting towards tier 4, I've kind of been stockpiling sludge. Now, how I've been doing that is I kind of set this this plant gatherer up right outside the base. I got these trees growing, and I've just been farming trees for sludge. And the reason for that being is that these tier 4 structure frames, so there's 3. Oh, maybe it wasn't this one. Oh, it was the controller itself. Block of quartz enriched iron. So this gets to be a little bit expensive, and it's not a whole lot. It's 250 millibuckets, but you're going to need a certain amount of this in order to get that quartz enriched iron. So just keep that in mind. You need that for the controller. So but that's about it for this episode. We'll catch up again. I've actually got some of the other machinery built for advanced rocketry, so we'll go over that next episode. Till next time.